Give me 1 minute and we should be able to start. Okay. When Madam Mayor is ready, we can begin.
Okay, we will open the City of Bishop City Council meeting for Monday, June 8th, 2020. This evening, our invocation will be given by Father Cam Lemons here in Bishop from the St. Timothy's Anglican Church here in Bishop. And our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by myself. If everybody could please stand. And Father, when you're ready, please.
Let us pray. God of justice, in your wisdom, you create all people in your image, without exception. Through your goodness, open our eyes to see the dignity, beauty, and worth of every human being. Open our minds to understand that all your children are brothers and sisters in the same human family. Open our hearts to repent of racist attitudes, behaviors, and speech which demean others. Open our eyes to hear the cries of those wounded by racial discrimination and their passionate appeals for change. Strengthen our resolve to make amends for past injustices and to right the wrongs of history. And fill us in Bishop, as well as our leaders that have been elected, with courage that they may seek to heal wounds, build bridges, forgive and be forgiven, and establish peace and equality for all in our communities. We ask this for God's glory. Amen.
Amen. If you'd all please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. You may be seated. And may we please have roll call?
Councilmember Mahovey,
Here.
Councilmember Ellis,
Here.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Here.
Mayor Smith.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We go into a time of public comment. If the public has commented on anything that is not calendared on our agenda this evening. Robin, did we receive anything not on our agenda?
No, but we do have Cami Foote available to speak to our general elections.
Oh, okay. Is Cami with us right now?
Yes.
Okay, Cami, you want to go ahead, please?
Sure. Good evening, City Council members. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to give you a brief update on the state of the November elections. If you've been paying attention to the news, you might have heard that our Governor Newsom has issued 2 executive orders in regards to the upcoming election. The first one was back in May, and that one authorized every county clerk to mail every active registered voter in the state a ballot through the mail. That particular executive order has been challenged by at least 2 different entities at this time, but it is expected to be codified through AB 860. So it's likely that every single voter in the city of Bishop will be receiving a ballot in the mail for November. The second executive order that was put out by the governor was last week, and that outlined in-person voting requirements for the November election. That has a little bit of confusion around it because initially when the executive order was put out and the press releases were put out accompanying it, there was some confusion about whether or not we would be mandated to have 3 days of early in-person voting in every county in the state. And the way that the language actually is in the executive order and the language in the accompanying bill, which is SB 423, is that if a county cannot hold a regular polling place election and has to have massive consolidations because whether lack of volunteers, because they have an outbreak, or because they can't find the facilities, then in those instances, they would be required to also have additional early in-person voting. Because of the geography of Inyo County and because we have amazing volunteers, it looks like we're going to be having a regular in-person election as well as having to vote by mail. So I don't expect to have those 3 days of additional voting connected to the November election here in Inyo County. We will have services, as we always do, for the 29 days leading up to the election in person in Independence for any voter who needs it. But I just want to underscore for your voters that no voter in the city of Bishop will have to choose between their health and exercising their right to vote in November. Anyone who wants to vote by mail will be able to, regardless of any litigation or any pending legislation. And we will have safe in-person voting options at the same ratios that we did in March. So as soon as this becomes concrete, as soon as we have actual legislation in the books, I'll be giving more information to Robin and to your city council as to what exactly that's going to look like in November. But I just wanted to let you know, in case you are hearing from your constituents, if they do have concerns, that we will be able to accommodate both mail ballot voting and in-person voting here in Inyo County.
Okay, great. Thank you for the update, Cami. And then we'll just wait to hear from you when it's finalized.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin, we don't have anybody else lined up for public comment that's not on our agenda.
Nope, and no other public comments have been made.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on then to our department head reports. We'll start with our Fire Chief, Joe Dell, please.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. Fire Department continues to support the COVID emergency and the EOC operations. They're still running logistics out of the Fire Training Center, working hard to keep everybody fit with what we need. There was from the logistics sides of things, there was a drop in demand. And then as we are ramping up to reopen, there's been a spike in needs and assessments. And so we're trying to get masks and PPE and all sorts of appropriate items out to everybody who needs them. And then people who are in need of stuff can contact me through the EOC to work on that. We also had a very positive JPA meeting with Simons and Health and Human Services last week. We're working on a EMS deployment plan in collaboration with Simons. So the fire department and the ambulance company cooperating to make sure that we fill any gaps that are out there, to make sure that EMS is provided when there's those holes, which is exciting for me. Be currently working on an agreement for Simons to approve and then us to work together in the future. The last thing I'm going to talk about tonight is working hard on finalizing the fireworks plan. We are moving forward with fireworks out at the airport again this year on the 4th of July. The show will be different from years past, as in there will be no tailgating. The gates will open closer to the fireworks side. There'll be a parking plan and no personal fireworks. So people will come out. We're working on a socially distant COVID plan. So everybody has their own space that's they'll be able to really maintain that social distancing. And then the fireworks will go off, around 9:20 like they do every year. And then we'll exit out. So it looks like it'll be like a one-way driving plan, come in off of Airport Road and off of Y. Working with some other agencies to try and find assistance in helping us provide this show. Sounds like we've reached out to a couple others that haven't been able to help us. And then we're also short on funding. So you should see a GoFundMe page open up here in the next couple days, hopefully tomorrow from the Firefighters Association. And then we'll be reaching out. We've had some meetings with law enforcement to see what the plan would look like for exiting out one way and entering in one. So more to come on that. I'm pretty optimistic that show is going to go through. we still have some final plans with the county to finish, including encroachment permit and all the COVID planning as well. And from there, I'll answer any questions.
I do have a question for you, Joe. So first off, I really, really appreciate the efforts that for the 4th of July celebration for the fireworks show. What is the reason for the one way in and one way out?
So this year we're expecting to see quite a few more people than we have in the past because of all the other shows being closed, the Crowley show, the Mammoth show, the Mountain show. We also had some issues last year with overcrowding and people parking close to the Jet A propulsion tanks and shooting off fireworks and some overall safety issues. And so we're trying to avoid that this year. And then, just going with trying to keep the new pavement that's happening over there at the airport in good condition too. So.
Okay, because I know it before we had the 2 exits out, it can be a long time getting out.
Yeah, we're hoping with traffic control and actually moving and being engaged in an active plan instead of people doing their own thing and kind of backing out and trying to go this way and that way, that it's going to decrease that. But
Okay.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, hopefully, right. I think people, no matter what, will appreciate the show though. Thank you. Anybody else have anything for Joe? Okay, then thank you. We'll move on to our police chief, Mr. Ted Steck, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'll touch on the protest last week in the city park. It appears our preparation and response plan was the right choice. We had a lot of resources ready in order to avoid being caught flat-footed should violence erupt. But we intentionally staged mostly out of sight, subsequently received a lot of support on our handling of the events. A couple people described our deployment as not too much and not too little, while others simply gave us a thumbs up and thank you. I wanted to thank for their assistance law enforcement personnel in Mono and Inyo counties. That would include the CHP, Fish and Wildlife, and the Tribal Police Chief, plus the Bishop Fire Chief and Public Works Director for having their staff ready to go. I also wanted to thank City Council, the City Administrator, City Attorney, and Robin for supporting our proposed deployment plan, prepping all the paperwork that we might need, and also helping me get the word out before the event. Councilman Mahovey also assisted me by helping with the informative PSA that went out the day before, also getting a retraction on a Facebook post that indicated that Antifa was on its way, which caused panic. Councilman Ellis for getting me in contact with the right person at DWP after learning that some of their employees were afraid to go to work. A couple other items I feel I should mention in terms of how the police department reacted to Mr. Floyd's horrible death and the potential arrest. Despite my feeling that the police department staff did not need additional coaching or training on positional asphyxia, which was the likely cause of death in my view, which was later confirmed, I provided a department update anyway. I felt this was a reasonable reminder to staff given the circumstances. So we started preparing early in anticipation of the protest and potential unrest. This involved the BPD command staff discussing a number of options and ultimately going with the one that seemed best for Bishop, which I mentioned earlier. Plus the PSA, monitoring social media, connecting with state and federal agencies and collecting data that helped us determine our potential threat level. Securing all the legal documents necessary in the event a curfew or emergency order necessary. In the end, we will likely never know if our preparation and readiness served as a deterrent to dangerous behavior, but we certainly would have if we were not prepared. So moving on to my next topic, certainly great to see Bishop and other areas carefully opening up. It's a ghost town there for a while, and I'm really enjoying the bumper traffic downtown. perhaps we're over the hump and the economy can start buzzing again. Just a reminder for drivers to be exceptionally careful and notice those bicyclists, pedestrians, and children playing in the neighborhoods. It's certainly okay and legal to slow down under those circumstances. Likewise, bicyclists and pedestrians also need to be careful, follow the law, and do not take a perceived right of way as automatically being safe. All parties must pay attention to the way that's all I have for tonight, unless maybe you have any comments.
Anybody have any questions or comments for Chief Steck? I just, I want to congratulate the people that organized the protest, and I spoke with several of them and they were very sincere in the message that they wanted to deliver. And I especially thank them for keeping it peaceful. And doesn't the message get across much better when it's kept peaceful? It doesn't get blurred. And I really appreciated it. And thank you to all your staff, Chief, for being there and being ready. And thankfully, we didn't need them to respond too much.
It was our pleasure, and thank you. And I too commend those who protested and peaceful, and we really didn't have any problems to speak of.
Yeah, it was great. All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to our Public Works Director, Mr. Destin Deshawn, please.
Sorry, forgot to unmute. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. First off, I'd like to give us a brief update on the JPA, the Bishop Wastewater Authority. We're trying to schedule the first meeting of the authority some later this month. Just trying to work everybody's schedule out where we can get the entire board and staff to where it works for them. We're going to meet, myself and Mr. Phillips will meet with DWP tomorrow to finalize what land will be transferred in this. It'll be a long process to get through it, but we need to finalize exactly how many acres we'll be acquiring from DWP. And then after that, DWP will have the not fun job of working with the current lessees that this will affect. Tomorrow, I meet with Helix, who is the environmental consultants for the Spruce Hanby sidewalks job. And then Wednesday with Triad to finalize plans and specs so we could get that job out to bid in July, hopefully a September 1 start of construction. That'll be exciting. It's a long time coming. Maybe exciting news, Joseph's, the owners of the Joseph's building actually came in and paid their plan review fees, which is something we've been asking to get to make sure that there is seriousness to their permits that they applied for, and they did pay them. So that's great news. It looks like they're starting to move forward. Also of note is the Kmart weeds. There is some progress being made over there. We don't know who's doing it, but they are in the process of cleaning things up over there slowly but surely, which should be a welcome sight, especially for Vons. And then lastly, I just wanted to quickly, before you go into consent calendar later on here, explain the building permit fees report that we submit to you monthly. There's two sections on there, the SMIP and the special revolving fund that you'll see those columns. The SMIP is the Strong Motion Instrumentation Program, and that funds seismic research within the state. And it's like less than 1/4 cent per dollar on a permit. And then there's the special revolving fund, which is more affectionately known as the green fee. That's $1 per $25,000 on the permit. So what you'll see at the very bottom in red is we put the total revenue brought in by permits to the city, and that's in red. The others are the totals of just the fees that we collect for the state. And it might be interesting to note, but it's a very, very sizable income this last month due to the fact that County paid for all of their We're not Inyo County. The developer paid for all their permits for the Inyo County building. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions of me.
Okay, that is great news about Joseph's. Really good news.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Moving in the right direction. Anybody have any comments or questions for Destin?
Thanks for getting that bottom line number for us, Destin. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anything else you guys like to see on that or make it simpler, let us know.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll move on to our community. Thank you, Destin. We'll move on to our community services manager, Dan McElroy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can everybody hear me okay?
I can.
Thank you. Just to touch base on a few things, right now the city park remains very busy with just protests and a lot of use. We're seeing a lot of people travel and come to the area right now. So if you haven't driven by the park and seen it, every day remains busier and busier as we get into our summer months and as people start to travel and as things loosen up throughout the state. With the theme of loosening up, we began our summer camps today. Monday was our first day kickoff. As we look at our summer camp and our numbers are a little bit lower than what we had hoped for, but we are still going to meet and exceed our cost to revenue ratio. So that is good, but our summer camps are moving forward and we began those today. Big thanks to Brittany and Waylon for getting everything set up, and everything looks good, and it looks like everybody had a lot of fun today. So with that, we are still continuing to work with the county on a reopening of our city park pool. Right now, kind of the ball is in the court of the swim team to put together their plan of what they're going to do to reopen the pool and the pool facilities. We're ready when they are, but they need to communicate with the county and get the okay from the county before we do that. With that, basically the pool will open something new about every week. So this week we're hoping that swim team, the next week followed by lap swim, and then the following weeks followed by aquatics and possibly swim lessons. As far as the other side of programming, Waylon is also working with the county to get softball season put together, and then just communicating with our user groups such as Little League and AYSO to see what their seasons look like here in the future so that we can staff and be prepared for everything that goes on. That's really all I have, unless the council has any questions or comments for me. Thank you.
Dan, did you mean to say our revenues were more than our cost? You said it the other way around.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
As of right now, as we operate our revenues and our outgoing costs, that we need to make some sort of revenue or at least balance the books there. So that's our goal in everything that we do right now.
I have noticed the park being used even more than it had been throughout all of this. And in spite of the extra use, it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I'm glad people are out enjoying it.
Yes. So.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Dan. We'll move on to our Associate Planner, Economic Development Coordinator, Elaine Kabala, please.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Awesome. Good evening. So Destin already touched on our update regarding Kmart, which is that we've been in constant contact with the property owners, and it appears that someone is doing something, and we will continue to put pressure on them both to clean up the property and eventually sell. Also wanted to let the council know that we are kicking off our specific plan and mixed use overlay planning effort currently. The first milestone is occurring this week. We've, as you know, procured consultants, and this week we will be meeting with many stakeholders in the community, including representation from the Latino community, representation from the tribe, Eastern Sierra Transit, MACA, the county, you know, lots of people who are really involved in transportation and community development, and having one-on-one meetings with them to inform the plan. And then we will be scheduling public outreach starting in July. So those are the first major milestones on that planning effort. As you may remember, we were also awarded funding for a Whitney Alley project that will look at pedestrian and safety improvements in Whitney Alley, but using what's referred to as green infrastructure to accomplish those things, which, you know, namely refers to incorporating landscaping into that. And similarly, the first step will be public outreach to property owners and business owners, and that will be scheduled following the outreach for the specific plan. So I will come back to you with a date on both of those in the near future. Also wanted to let you know that the federal government has made funding available for local municipalities through the state. It will be administered via the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is run through Housing and Community Development. This is specifically targeted towards COVID-19 response. The City of Bishop is eligible for about $70,000, and we will, of course, intend to apply for that. The eligible projects include things for community development, such as public services related to COVID-19, construction projects related to healthcare facilities, business assistance, and micro enterprise assistance. I only wish to add this evening that in the last couple of weeks, I've heard lots of compliments from the public. This is directed towards council and the community services department, that the flowers on Main Street are really beautiful this year. So I promised those who had mentioned it to me that I would pass it along to you. That's all I have for now, unless you have questions for me. Thank you.
They're spectacular. Glad people are noticing. Anybody have anything for Elaine? Okay, thank you very much. We will move on then to our city administrator, Mr. Ron Phillips, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. It's good to meet with you and see you this evening. First of all, I just appreciate all the good work that the city staff is doing. Everybody's doing an amazing job, and I appreciate it so much. I'm sure you do as well. The primary thing I wanted to mention this evening is that the state, the governor and the state have released guidance for opening many more businesses and facilities by Friday, the 12th, including campgrounds, RV parks, and outdoor recreation, some which were already opened here in our county. Hotels, which is a great, it's great news, I think, for all of us. Family entertainment centers, restaurants, bars, and wineries, fitness facilities, and a number of gathering places that we don't have locally. And then they've issued new guidance for day camps. We already had access to that, and so as Dan mentioned, our summer camps opened today and very, very successfully. So we're looking forward to more business opening and are happy for them to be able to begin providing additional services in the community. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Yes, we do appreciate all the work that the staff has been doing. It never ceases to amaze me in all the years that I've been working with our staff, amazing staff. They meet challenge after challenge after challenge, and they just meet it and they rise above it, and they really are amazing, including now.
Hey, Ron, this is Chris. Do you know in that new list of places that are able to open, is the movie theater included in that?
Unfortunately, it is not.
Yeah, thanks for asking that, Chris, because my suggestion was going to be if there were any way that we could maybe write a letter to the state in support of our movie theater, since it is not like the typical movie theaters in large metropolitan areas, because it's pretty unique in that it doesn't have that many people. It only has 2 showings a day. And I was wondering if maybe it would help if we could draft a letter in support and ask the county to do the same.
I think,
I'd go for that.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
I think it'd be best probably to write the letter to the county and copy the state, if that would serve your purpose.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we'll be happy to do that.
Okay, anybody else? Anything for Mr. Phillips?
And Mr. Mahovey, if you have any suggestions on wording, we'd be glad to.
Okay.
All righty, thank you very much. We'll move on then to our consent calendar. Matters in the consent calendar are considered routine and we act on them by one motion. Anybody have any questions or comments? The consent calendar?
Yeah, I had one thing in there. I noticed under our full-time staff salaries that the assistant chief amount that we paid, it looks like it was half of his total salary was crossed out. So I guess it's a question, not about what's on the calendar, but maybe for Joe, did the rural fire district take over the whole amount of the assistant chief? Curious why that was crossed out on there.
So I actually did not see what you're looking at. No, the assistant chief is funded half and half, so.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's a question for Ron then. Thanks, Joe.
The assistant fire chief was moved to full-time. Were you looking at the part-time wage schedule?
Okay, that's why it was crossed out. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. That explains it. Thanks.
Got the answer anyway. Anybody else? Robin, did we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
No further comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody care to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
And the vote, please, Robin?
Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 8 on our agenda, which is new business. And item A under new business is Parks and Recreation Commission. I believe Mr. Phillips is handling this, or is that you, Robin?
I can take it if you'd like.
Okay.
So Thomas Batchelder resigned from his position on the Parks and Recreation Commission effective March 8, 2020, which left an unscheduled vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Commission with a term ending on March 25, 2020. The process of advertising an unscheduled commission vacancy was completed and resulted in receipt of 3 applications. Interviews were held on Wednesday, May 20th. The interview committee has recommended an appointment, and I believe that, I don't know if Brad Ballant, are you on the Zoom meeting yet? Okay, so Brad's not joining us, so if City Administrator Phillips, if you could read Brad's recommendation.
Thank you, Robin. This recommendation was written by Brad Ballant, the Parks and Recreation Commission. Madam Mayor and City Council, recently a vacancy was created in the Parks and Rec Commission when one of our team members Tom Bouchelder stepped down for personal reasons. We greatly appreciate his tenure and the valuable contributions he made while on the commission. Subsequently, a notice of vacancy was posted in an effort to fill this position. We received 3 applicants, of which we performed panel-style interviews via Zoom with each individual applicant. Each candidate brought a wide variety of experience for us to consider. However, one candidate stood out with her years of experience working directly with the parks in a variety of functions, including but not limited to coordinator, supervisor of various programs, including summer camps, supervisor of adult softball, volleyball, and soccer, coordinating tennis socials, and recently an instructor for a children's exercise class. She has ultimately lived her life in the Bishop City Park. And with that comes a lot of observation, experience, and insight as to operations and responsibilities from both an outsider's and a local's perspective. She will bring a fresh perspective to the various types of projects and programs we are committed to best serve our community and our visitors, which will make the Bishop City Parks a destination place for all who live and play here. On behalf of the Parks Commission and the Interview Committee, we would like to recommend Patty Cummings to fill the vacated Parks and Recreation Commission position. The Interview Committee and I thank you and appreciate your consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Brad.
And I'd like-
Also, sorry,
I'd like-
Patty Cummings is also here, and just so everyone knows.
And I'd just like to add that it was the consensus of the entire panel that Patty was the best candidate. And Patty, if you're living in the city park, you might consider moving over to Kmart.
Yeah, which came up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent choice. I'm very excited to have Patty on the commission. That's going to be great.
Patty, do you have anything to say? Thought she was on our Zoom meeting.
Well, welcome, Patty, if you're listening. And
He's
we are-
on. Patty,
Okay.
unmute yourself.
She's on, but she's muted. You just have to
Oh.
click the unmute button on the bottom left.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Thanks, Patty.
I just want to say thank you to the council for giving me this opportunity, and I'm really excited about being able to serve on the commission. Thank you so much.
Thank you for applying, Patty, and it's really exciting to have you on. You bring a wealth of experience and knowledge.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? Did we receive any public comment, Robin?
No public comments, thank you.
They're all happy.
We're all
Madam,
happy.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Patty Cummings to fill the unscheduled vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Commission with a term ending March 25, 2024.
I'll second that.
Okay, and the vote, please, Robin?
Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes, thank you, Patty, for volunteering.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes, and I'd also like to add a huge thank you to Tom Batchelder for all the years that he has served on the Parks and Rec, and we wish him the very best. We thank him very much.
Absolutely. Motion passes 5-0.
We would have had cake for him, but Robin's the only one there. Ron and Robin would eat it all, so. Okay, we'll move on to item B, and that's our planning commission. And do we have the planning commission chair, Mr. Eric Leach, with us this evening?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
All right. Well, good evening, Mayor, council people. We had an unscheduled vacancy on the Planning Commission due to the departure of Mark Heckman after many years of service to the Planning Commission, stepping down for private reasons. And the position was duly advertised, and on Friday before last, I guess that would be May 29th, Panel conducted interviews. Panel consisted of Ron Phillips, Councilman Ellis, Councilman Mahovey, Commissioner Lind, and myself. In all, we had 3 applicants for the Planning Commission vacancy. Similar to the last statement, all of the 3 candidates were engaging. Each was super passionate about contributing to the community in interesting and different ways, I might add. While the panel felt that each candidate had unique strengths, it was the consensus opinion of the panel that Patricia Liu would make the strongest addition to the commission. Patricia has attended a number of commission meetings in recent years, and she's closely followed several specific items that the commission has dealt with. And during the interview, it was clear that she had both a broad understanding of the function of the commission and also the types of issues that routinely come before the commission. Patricia is a long-term resident of Bishop. She's raised a family here over the last 20 years. She is both a homeowner here in town as well as a landlord, both commercial and residential. We felt that these experiences place Patricia in an excellent position to broadly represent the residents of Bishop and also to have a balanced understanding of the variety of issues that confront Bishop's residents and matters that touch on the commission's jurisdiction. The panel therefore recommends that council members approve the appointment of Patricia Liu to the unscheduled vacancy created by the departure of Commissioner Heckman.
All righty, thank you very much, Eric. Anybody have any comments regarding Patricia Liu's appointment?
I'm just thrilled that she applied and is going to serve on the Planning Commission. And I was in an interview panel with her when she previously applied, and we reappointed just an existing member of the Planning Commission. And I was hoping that she would reapply, and I'm glad that she is finally joining the City of Bishop in this capacity.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody else?
Just that I look forward to serving with her.
I heard that, Robin. Thank you. No public comment.
Okay. Thank you, Tricia, for stepping up. And yeah, and I will make a motion that we appoint Patricia Liu to fill the unscheduled vacancy on the Planning Commission with the term ending June 22, 2021.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. The vote, please, Robin.
Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. And Patricia, I believe, is joining us as well.
Thank you, Patricia. Are you there? Would you like to say anything?
I just wanted to say thank you to the council and to the Planning Commission for their time and for their consideration. And I really, really look forward to just keeping this town on the path that it's going and helping with its trajectory and creating with this Patty Cummings on the Parks Commission. It's just lovely to see her face again. And I think there will be some fun energy in the different commissions in the years ahead.
I do too. Thank you for all the insight that you're going to bring, and I look forward to seeing your years of service on the Planning Commission. Thank you so much. Okay, we will move on. We are actually going a little off agenda right now. We're going to be going into a brief closed session period. And that closed session, Mr. Phillips or our city attorney stepping in this evening, would you like to explain what that's all about, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. A minor housekeeping item before we move on to the next item on the agenda. Actually, it's 2 housekeeping items that I'd like to prevail upon the council to consider. The first is a closed session discussion that we would need to add to the agenda for labor negotiations. That would be authorized under Government Code 54957.6. And in order to add this closed session discussion to the agenda tonight, the council would need to decide by a 2/3 vote that there is a need to take immediate action and that this need arose after the posting of the agenda. So that's item number 1 that we would like to add to the agenda, that we are proposing to add to the agenda. And then the second item that we are proposing to add to the agenda is actually a resolution to consolidate an election for the proposed transactions and use tax measure. The resolution to consolidate is included in the agenda packet. However, it's just not listed under item C with the other 4 resolutions. So that's a procedural technical revision change that we would like to propose to the agenda, so long as, again, the council can find that there's a need to take immediate action and that the need arose subsequent to the posting of the agenda.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Collins. Anybody have any questions or comments about that, or want to tackle a motion on that?
I will make a motion that we add these items that Keith mentioned to the agenda, as there is an immediate need for that.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, and the vote on this motion, please, Robin?
Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All righty, thank you very much. And the second motion, any discussion?
No,
Oh, and-
go ahead. I understood Councilmember Costello's motion to apply to both items that we need to add to the agenda.
Oh,
That's
okay. That's okay, Mr. Collins, that we voted just one time on both of them?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, then we will now move into closed session.
Oh, Robin has something.
And just so you know, there are no new public comments made, just in case someone wanted to. Okay.
I have a question. How are we going to proceed into closed session? Are you going to send out another Zoom invitation?
No, we're going to go ahead and put you in a breakout room, and it'll be confidential for the players or the participants within that room. So we're going to take about a minute to put you all into a room, and then once you're done, you'll be able to leave that and go right back into our regular meeting. So
Okay.
You'll be put into the room shortly here. Tony, if you can assist me with that.
Make sure we're
Put
6
all-
feet apart.
We're going to have, we're going to have council as well as Ron Phillips and Keith Collins and Paul Coble join.
Thanks, Robin.
You're welcome. Just one moment here. Karen. Where's Karen Schwartz? Paul? We need Chris to join, and we need Ron to join. Chris, you just need to accept and join. Waiting on, okay. All right. We'll take a break till they're done. Yeah, you want to pause? Now pause. Patty. And Patricia, if you don't need to stay on the meeting if you don't want to. You're welcome to leave the meeting at your own convenience.
Thanks. I was just hanging out and checking other stuff, but I have another Zoom call coming up in a few minutes. Thank you so much for your time, Robin.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Take care. See you soon.
Okay, thank you. And Patty.
That's okay, it's fine.
I thought you were doing me.
I was done with my portion, but I was still logged in.
Patty left too. Okay.
Everybody might be muted again.
I'm here.
He sounded excited about that.
Oh, yeah. Very, very. I'm just hungry. Need a grilled
Yeah,
cheese.
because we all saw Karen eating that good looking sandwich.
I've been snacking on M&Ms.
Robin, are you back?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, everybody back?
We're gonna have to, we paused our recording, so we're gonna restart our recording and I have my screen shared so you can see the agenda. So I think we're ready to go. How about you, Frida? Good? Okay. Okay, Granicus is up and running now too. So if everyone's back, got two different mice going here. We have Stephen, Karen, Jim, Chris, Laura. Okay, and Mr. Collins. Everyone should be on board now.
Okay, great. Then we will resume. We're back into open session of this evening's meeting, and we do not have anything to report out of closed session. We are going to be moving into item D now. We're switching item C and D's places. So item D, and that is first reading of an ordinance to add chapter 3.52, community safety and services transaction and use tax, to title 3 of the Bishop Municipal Code. I believe this is going to Mr. Phillips.
And I will turn it immediately to Mr. Collins to
Okay.
talk about.
Thank you, Mr. City Administrator and Madam Mayor. The item before you tonight is a proposed ordinance that would add a chapter to the municipal code that would impose a transactions and use tax on the sale of all tangible goods at retail within the city. A tax of this kind needs approval of the city council, a 2/3 vote of the city council, and approval by a majority of the voters in the city. So it's a two-part approval in order to impose this tax. This tax is a common mechanism that cities use when financial concerns are such that there is a systemic shortage in revenues and an additional revenue source is needed. This is a common way that cities are able to generate necessary revenue to avoid drastically cutting back necessary services to the community. So what you see before you in item D is an ordinance, the first reading of an ordinance. It's the first step in imposing and enacting a tax of this kind. It includes some standard language coordinating the city's collection of the tax with the state and how they collect these taxes, and it has some other just procedural language in the body of the ordinance. The reason that we switched the order between D and C is because we wanted this to have the discussion before we move into the election issues with respect to enacting this tax. And so that's what's before you in item D, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody have any questions, comments for Mr. Collins?
Yeah, are we going to have a discussion on the amount? I noticed it says 1% in the reading, and then there's a scale for us of the amount of revenue that would come from a half, 3/4, and 1%.
We are going to discuss, yes.
Okay. Is this the time to do that, or should we wait?
Now would be as good a time as any.
All right. At our budget meeting, when we discussed this, you guys remember I was pushing for the lower rate of half, and a lot of people wanted 1, and there was the logic of the statistics that voters, it's easier for them to look at whole numbers, and they agree with those more. And then I really liked what Jim had to say that why don't we go in the middle of that to 3/4? And so without going into all kinds of reasoning and everything, I would like for us to shoot for that, but I don't know what everybody else wants. Anyways, there's my 2 cents.
So my thoughts on this subject are essentially like our city costs end up increasing in many ways because now there are a lot of new there are state legislations and requirements that have been placed on the city, and so a lot of our admin time is going to meet a bunch of those requirements. On the budget that we're about to pass, we've defunded all improvement projects. We're not contributing to our fire department capital improvement projects, which anybody who knows our fire department knows that a lot of our equipment is outdated. They do a wonderful job. I'm not like in any way faulting them. But a lot of our equipment is outdated. Our public works, they do great works, but we still have many unfinished sidewalks and everything. And even with that budget, we had to dip $900,000 this year alone into our reserves. And so I really think that to maintain essential city services, unless we're talking about actually getting rid of staff and removing services, that we do have to do this. And a 0.5% level wouldn't even make us whole for this year's budget. And we've still cut so much to be able to just get to that point. And so that's why that's one of the reasons that I think that for our fiscal solvency, we should look at 1% so that we can stop shirking our responsibilities to what we said we would do with the rural fire district. We're looking at having to purchase land from DWP through for sewer, but I guess that would come from that particular fund. But I do also think that so it would be used. I would say that we would have to do this to maintain essential city services, and that we should put a sunset clause in there that this can be ended by the voters as well, in the language of the ballot.
So if I could just clarify, Councilmember Mahoney, the sunset clause would take effect to automatically repeal the tax. It wouldn't need voter approval to repeal it.
I would need voter approval to repeal it. Yeah, it would.
Okay, so then you don't want a sunset clause. A sunset happens automatically, whether or not the voters approve it. So a sunset clause would have a termination date to this tax.
Sure, I think there should be language in the ballot that on the actual ballot that we vote on that says that it would go towards maintaining essential city services, and it can be ended by the voters.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And so that's kind of my thought. We're bare bones on what services we're talking about, and we've already cut so much out of this year's budget, and so going for the 0.75% increase would not even put us at where we were last year in terms of services. So that's why, I mean, it's a tough decision. And if the voters don't end up approving this, then the reality is, unless we have a major change in the economy, that we would be forced to lay off city staff, and that would limit essential city services.
Karen, were you going to say something?
Yes. Thank you, Stephen. I think that was a really good point. I actually spoke with Dean before the previous council meeting, and I asked him, you know, what's the situation if the economy totally rebounds and all of a sudden we have this, you know, excess amount of money? Because right now we're in a position of not only are we going to have to meet our needs as a city, but we also are going to have to build up our reserve. So we kind of have two things that we're going to have to do, is build up our reserve and just meet our, you know, expenses. But, you know, something Dean said, you know, one, we could just get rid of the tax if we wanted to, but we could also, if there's many things that he has seen in other cities that do have an excess of funds that they use for giving back to the community. And so, you know, we have options where if the economy does rebound to pre-COVID levels, we could then give back to the community or repeal it altogether. I don't think any of us are in a position where we want to, you know, use money that we don't need.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't think that, Karen, in all the years I've been here, the only tax I've seen come through is the BTID, which really doesn't go to our city. I think we've kind of reached a spot, and echoing what Stephen's saying is, you know, we're behind on every capital improvement, on equipment, and our costs keep going up. I think we're kind of at that spot where we need to do this. If we have money left over to rebuild reserves, great. If we have even money left over with that, we're so far behind the curve on street projects and infrastructure projects that I think the time is right. I appreciate your thoughts, Chris, on this, on the 0.75, but upon looking at it, across the state, tax rates are great. We actually are pretty fortunate that we're at 7 3/4. To take the state 8 3/4, we're still below probably the state average. So I would support a 1%, and let's get this ball rolling and get our funds back up and get our money put back into our city, keep us going strong.
And I agree with everything that's been said about our need. Part of my thought in just bringing up the 3/4% is it stands more of a chance of passing. I really don't know. I mean, a lot of our people will understand and read the writing, you know, about the need of the city, but some will just be mad that we're asking for more money, thinking we already have too much. So anyways, that's part of my reasoning, is just makes it a little easier for the taxpayer to swallow. But you know, if you guys all want to go with one, I'll support that too.
Yeah, and I mean, I think to that point, our role is to make sure that the city is fiscally solvent, but then also to let people know of the hard decisions that we're having to make in this regard. And you know as well as I do, when we walk down the streets and you're campaigning and you're talking to people, and somebody's like, "Well, I still don't have the sidewalk." Well, I want the swimming pool at the or improvements at the park, and I think people would they understand once we explain it to them that, like, right now we're bare bones, and just doing a 3/4% would bring us, make it so that we weren't dipping into the reserves this year.
I also think, to your point, Chris, that the 0.75 versus 1%, the person that doesn't want us to increase tax rates, there's no amount that they're going to say yes or no to. It's just going to be it. And I have no data. This is just more of a, you know, philosophical. I just think that they're either a yes or a no, and the number really isn't going to change them one way or the other. Personally, that's what I think.
I agree with that. And Stephen, I can answer the first one. I don't have a sidewalk either, but it's still a great town.
I was just remembering, it was right around your your house, actually. It was in that neighborhood. That was, yeah, someone was like, oh, well, we had to put in these electrical boxes, but there's no sidewalk, so people have just been driving over them. I'm like, yeah.
My thoughts on it are, it goes back to when we were considering the 0.5% way back when the BTID was being discussed. And so we forfeited any further discussion and threw in, to support the BTID. And the 0.5% was to be a permanent help to the city. And I believe that the economy is definitely going to rebound. And, it already is beginning to a little bit, but you can see that I'm looking at this being a permanent help for the city. I'm not looking for 1% increase. I don't believe that, I think the people of the city of Bishop are different than maybe in other areas where it was proven, Stephen, that, when you have a whole percent that
Sure.
they tend to vote. I think people here, it's always different here.
Yeah,
And
no, I
think
agree with that.
people can think for themselves and they know what, a 0.5 cent on a dollar is versus a penny on a dollar. But I don't like the idea of, okay, we put it to the people to solve the entire problem. I want this to be a permanent help that, yes, the city does need this and we have needed this. And I'm not looking to the people to fund us to solve this entire problem. I would like to see Mr. Phillips. I would like to see other avenues. There's other things coming down with possible monies coming to cities that are less than 500,000 people, and looking at other revenues and not just relying on, we want a one-stop fix all with 1% increase in tax. I'm leaning towards the 0.5% still.
Well, I mean, we can always re-add to the ballot allowing marijuana in town.
That's bad. That's like blackmail. I don't know what that is, but that's bad. I could say something, but I'm not going to. Anyway, I will not support 1% tax increase, just so you know. I don't know if anybody has any further discussion. Robin, has there been any public comment come in?
Laura?
Yes.
So that we can have consensus, would you be willing to go to 3/4?
I'd rather not. I'd like I said, I'd like to see this stay permanent. And I think the 0.5% is going to help the city a lot. I'm not,
Yeah, I mean, I just come back to if we had an extra 0.5% for this budget, we would still be dipping into our reserves. And even after cutting, so much of our services.
Right.
How much did we cut from the fire district or from the fire capital improvement fund? A few $100,000.
Yes.
And at a 0.5%, we wouldn't even have been contributing to that.
Are you talking pre-COVID or post, during?
I'm talking about the budget we're about to pass.
Right, which is based on an extremely, this is unprecedented, Stephen. I've never seen anything like this in the city, even when we endured the recession period. This is very, very unique. And I know that, things can happen.
Right. And the other unique thing that has changed since the reception period is that now the state has requirements for how much we contribute to pensions. And those have changed drastically since the recession period to the point that we had to do a lump sum payment of a few $1 million a year or two ago. And that's not changing. The state is not going to keep they're not going to relax those sorts of requirements in the near future. And I think, I really hope that the economy rebounds at the rate that we all want it to, but that is not a guarantee. And if we have even another year like this one, the city's broke. We do not have enough in our reserves after this year's budget to be able to operate without layoffs next year.
Well, I don't see the city going broke just because of if it can, hopefully it doesn't continue, and I don't think it would. I think we would take measures to prevent that from happening. But you do make some really good points, and for that reason, and I would consider going with the 3/4. I'm standing on. I'm not going the 1%. I just feel like the point is I'm not looking at the people of being our like I said, our problem solver altogether.
I don't think we're having to. I mean, I see where you're going, Laura, and I understand it, but to Stephen's point, I think that the cost of living, it also applies to the city. There's so many more mandates, and the cost of just doing business to keep us going has been going up. And we've done a great job. Ron, prior administrators, we've done a great job at our department heads of trying to trim as much as we can. But there reaches a point when, you're behind the curve. And I think we're getting close to that. And, 3/4, 1%, 3/4 will help. 1% takes us to the next level. Maybe we can play in some new games and do the things that we've all dreamed of, the paths and the different things. So I will go either way, though.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I would just like to comment that pre-COVID, we had, talked a bit about increasing sales tax to meet the desires of constituents that we've spoken to on increasing different city projects like the bike paths behind the park or doing more, downtown initiatives. And so even before the pandemic hit, it was something that I was hoping that the city would consider, given the constituents in our community wanting more from what the city has to offer and kind of envisioning a more vibrant downtown. And we've accomplished a lot of that through grants, but I think given the nature of the people that I've been talking to, they are willing to contribute just so they can see a city that is, a little bit more vibrant. And I think we would see that from the constituents. It's not just fixing our problems, but it's actually, participating in paying for a better city overall.
Yeah, exactly. So like you said, Karen, take us back to how our revenue is before this very unusual period of time, and then add the income of a 3/4% if the people, hopefully choose to pass that. And there you go. You have your answer.
Well, the other thing that I would point out is that we keep talking about what can we do about empty buildings on Main Street. And we've made it really clear that the only big action that the city could take would be something drastic like invoking eminent domain. But even when you do that, you have to pay for the properties. When DWP properties come up for auction, we have to pay for that to put it in for public good. And I mean, Laura, I admire your hope about the speed at which the economy rebounds, and I hope you're right. But we have to, I have to act from the data that's presented to us. And with the data that's presented to us to maintain our city services as they were last year, we need to, I think it behooves us to ask the voters for a 1% increase. And they might say no, and then we will definitely have to cut a lot of services. And that is entirely in their purview. If they tell us, okay, yeah, we don't agree with that solution, you guys go back to the drawing board, that's entirely in their right.
Right.
But I feel confident that we've done our due diligence to slash everything. And 0.5% would still keep us dipping into reserves. A 0.75% would barely get us at that point to break even. And a 1% would bring us out of this. And if we have the amazing recovery that you're hoping for, that puts us in a really strong position to enact all of the changes they've been asking us for. And so, I mean, I'm happy making a motion that we put on the ballot a 1% increase.
Okay.
I have a quick question. This requires a 2/3 vote. Does that mean we have to have 3 council members or 4 to pass this?
4.
Was that a motion that you made, Stephen? Is that?
I did make
I'll
a
second
motion.
that motion.
Okay, any other comments before we go to the vote?
I'm sorry, there was a question about public comment. We probably should take public comment before we act on this item.
Right. Robin, do we have anybody from the public that's commented on this?
No public comments.
Okay. Thank you, Keith. And the vote, please?
Do we get a second?
Ron has a raised
Yeah,
hand up.
Karen did a second, Keith.
Okay.
This is 8.
Ron, do you have a question?
Just had a comment if it's acceptable.
Oh, yeah.
Every place that I've been, I've worked hard to get the financial aspects of the city or the district, whatever I've been leading, to a point where I think there should be a repair and replacement fund that is built up over time. I believe there should be a pavement management program that's based on good data and is well funded. There are a number of things the city is not doing that we should be doing. I came here and kind of said to myself, well, we probably will just get along as best we can and try to meet needs as best we can over time, and this won't happen. But I think that besides the nice things, these are just everyday kinds of maintenance issues that the city is not meeting at this time. And, you know, we came into this current budget year, 2019, 2020, dipping into reserves at over $600,000 just to meet some capital needs. And so even before COVID, I don't think the city was healthy financially. So I just bring those things up to say, if the citizens, the voters would support this kind of a tax increase, there are uses that are crying to be met.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Phillips. If there aren't any more comments, then may we go to the vote, please, Robin?
Okay, Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Based on all that I've heard and wanting the city to do well and hoping it passes, I'll vote yes.
Mayor Smith.
No.
Okay, motion passes 4-1.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Now we will move back to item C on the agenda under new business. And that is the general municipal election. I believe this is back to you, Robin.
You know, I took that vote without reading the ordinance. Should I go ahead and read the ordinance now and then make note of the motion?
Yes.
What would you
Okay.
like?
If that's good with Keith, I'm good with that too.
It is.
Okay, thank you. An ordinance of the City Council and the people of the City of Bishop, State of California, adding Chapter 3.52, Community Safety and Services Transactions and Use Tax to Title III of the Bishop Municipal Code. And that's with the 1% as discussed. So I will call the vote again. Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
No.
Thank you. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Now we
thank
can move to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Keith, feel free to pop on in and add to whatever I have to say. But basically, every year, the City of Bishop consolidates with the county to consolidate its general municipal election with the statewide general election scheduled this year on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. Let's see. The council has 3 members on council that will be up for re-election, as well as the city treasurer position. The council may also vote to submit the voters a proposed community safety and services transaction and use tax, which we just discussed, and put that on the ballot as well as a measure. Let's see, we have, with the vote being taken on the ordinance, it looks like we'll be passing 5 different resolutions. The first is to call the election for the city offices, the 3 council member positions, as well as the city treasurer. The second resolution would be to consolidate with the county for those elections, for those elected positions. The third resolution would be to set forth regulations for the candidate statements for those offices. The fourth resolution will call an election for the proposed community safety and services measure and directs the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis and sets forth regulations regarding the submission of direct and rebuttal arguments regarding the measure for printing on the ballot and the ballot materials. The fifth resolution is asking consolidation with the county for the proposed community safety and services measure to be added to the ballot. Did I get that right, Keith?
You did, and it may be helpful for the council to visualize this as 2 separate groups. The first 3 resolutions just are the standard procedural resolutions that the council needs to adopt to do its general municipal election for the members of the city council seats that are open and for the city treasurer. So those first 3 resolutions, those are procedural, non-controversial, probably not a lot of discussion that needs to happen with respect to those first 3. The fourth resolution is the one that deals with the transactions and use tax. The fifth resolution is the one that we added a few minutes ago. That one requests consolidation of the tax measure with the general municipal election held this November. The reason that we've bifurcated these issues is in case the council decided not to go forward with the transactions and use tax, it could still go forward with these procedural enactments to have its municipal election heard regardless and in any case. There is some discussion that needs to happen on the fourth resolution, where we're going to need to finalize the ballot question. So if we can, may I suggest that we possibly do the first three and get those out of the way and move into the fourth resolution, which deals with the actual text and the language of the ballot question would be my suggestion. I think you're muted, Madam Mayor.
We can't hear you, Laura. Still muted. There you go.
Sorry, there we go. Keith, do we have to make individual motions for each one of these, even the first three?
No, we could make a motion to approve those three, and then we probably will want to do separate motions for the last two because one of them's not printed on the agenda.
Right. Okay, so looking at the first three items here, does anybody have any questions or comments on these three? Any comments from the public? Robin, on the first three only?
No public comment?
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Make a motion to accept the first three resolutions as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And the vote, please.
So a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, calling for the holding of a general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, November 3, 2020 for the election of certain officers as required by the laws of the State of California relating to general law cities. The next resolution. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Inyo to consolidate a general municipal election to be held on November 3, 2020, with a statewide general election to be held on that date pursuant to Section 10403 of the Election Code. And the third resolution, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, adopting regulations for candidates for elective office pertaining to candidate statements submitted to the voters at an election to be held on Tuesday, November 3, 2020. Okay, Councilmember Mahovey?
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello?
Yes.
And Mayor Smith?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, continued discussion on the next two items, or do you want to just take one at a time? Item 4?
So item 4 is the one where most of the discussion will be. The fifth item is simply a procedural request to consolidate the TUT measure with the county's election. So that one's kind of straightforward. If you pull up the text of the resolution number 4, you will see that this resolution actually calls the election. What that means is it puts the public on notice that the city council is affirmatively putting a measure before the voters, and it puts them on notice that this is an item that they will have the opportunity to vote on this November. It also contains the text of the ballot question, which is what voters will see when they get their ballot materials in the mail or in person, wherever the case may be, that they see the question and the city drafts this question. Our office has prepared this. There are certain laws that govern how these questions can be written. Obviously, the form of the question is incredibly important to the voters when they make their vote and when they decide which way they're going to go on this, yes or no. And so what we've done here is we have drafted the question in a way that tells the public what this measure is designed to do. And if you look at the measure, it says, the question itself, we've titled the measure the Bishop Community Safety and Services Measure. And it goes on to pose the question, to provide the City of Bishop with funding for general services such as police, fire, street maintenance, and parks and recreation services, shall an ordinance creating a 1-cent transactions, sales, and use tax be adopted, providing approximately X amount of dollars annually until repealed by voters, with all funds locally controlled and independently audited. So this phraseology is consistent with many other transactions and use tax ballot questions. Traditionally, these measures are more likely to pass when police services are listed prominently in the question. Voters tend to approve taxes more often than not if the funds are used for public safety purposes, and police is a core principle of public services. We crafted this question about a week and a half ago. In that amount of time, the public discourse on the subject of police services and the funding of police services has changed dramatically. There is reason to consider leaving, specifically mentioning police services prominently as the first service to be funded by this tax. That's a question for the council to decide and to debate. Do we want to inform the voters when they get their ballot materials that these funds, if approved by the voters, will be used to fund police? And that's a political question. It's a strategic question that the council should debate. But we have this language before you today, and it's something to be finalized tonight in order to approve this resolution and enact this measure that could go before the voters this fall.
Okay, thank you very much.
Keith, what page was that, the statement that you?
So it's on the second page of the resolution calling the election. It's section 3.
Keith, have you seen it done as funding for general services such as public safety?
Yes. Yes.
And I would say next on the street maintenance, put a slash in there and add sidewalk in there. I think that's a point that many people bring up a lot.
Certainly, we can craft this language however the council feels best.
In section 5, it says that the city council authorizes the following members of its body, and it, gives, we can all be part of it, the ability to file a written argument not exceeding 300 words. So we can wordsmith this between all of us and make sure everything's covered.
No. So the ballot question is different than the argument. Section 5 deals with the argument that would be printed below the ballot question. And what section 5 is designed to do is so that the council can, as a body, designate one or more members of the city council to collaborate and draft an argument why this measure should pass. And counter arguments will be submitted, and then rebuttal arguments can be submitted. And there's more language in this resolution that deals with those procedures and those regulations. But in terms of wordsmithing this ballot question, we need to kind of come forward on the language now.
So may I make a suggestion to the name? Why not do something like Bishop Quality of Life and Essential Services Protection Measure? Because what we're talking about is effectively maintaining essential services. And so this is a measure to protect our essential services and maintain our quality of life.
So certainly the council can decide to call this measure that it is putting before the voters whatever it would like. That certainly sounds like a reasonable title. The title that we've drafted is consistent with other measures that have passed. And so I would be hesitant to deviate too far, but certainly that is within the council's discretion to change the wording.
And the wording, Keith, that Stephen's giving, that still designates what it would be going towards, because we're designating, right?
So it's not a special tax. If you earmark the funds and limit their use for specific purposes.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
At that point, it becomes a special tax, not a general tax. And a special tax requires 2/3 approval of the voters. So
that's right.
The city is not bound to spend the revenues derived from this tax on these things. We list these things in the ballot question to inform the voters and persuade them that, yes, this tax is something that is going to fund these things that I like, and I'm more likely to vote for it. But we don't have to include any of this in there. What we do, because in the past research has shown that they tend to pass when these types of services are mentioned in the question.
That's right. Okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
so crafting the argument is part of section 5, but the actual name of the measure is the Bishop Community Safety and Services Measure. Is that correct?
Yes, as it's written now.
And that's what I'm suggesting. Maybe we should look at doing Bishop Quality of Life and Essential Services Protection Measure.
I like that, except for the quality of life, just because it makes it too wordy. But
All
I
right.
think if you did like the Bishop Community
Essential
Safety
Services
and-
Protection Measure.
Yeah, I like that better personally.
So I would just say Bishop Essential Services Protection Measure, I think is what I'm suggesting. And then what I would suggest with the writing is something akin to provide the city of Bishop with funding to maintain essential city services, such as fire, street maintenance, police, parks. I mean, do we even need to list it out?
We have 300 words that we can put into our argument.
We should keep it short.
So the ballot question has, I think it's a 75-word limit, 300 words
Right.
for the argument. The ballot question has to be somewhat more concise.
Right.
Hey, Stephen, how about Bishop Community Safety Enhancement, safety, enhancement, and Essential Services Measure?
I don't like having the word enhancement there because it makes it sound like it's not necessary.
Like it's extra. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that's why I keep thinking like, and keeping it simple, because remember, this is like the 75 words that people are going to look on. Right. So I would keep it simple and just say the Bishop Essential Services Protection Measure, and to provide the city of Bishop with funding to maintain essential city services such as fire, police, street maintenance, and parks and recreation.
Sidewalks.
Sidewalks, yeah.
Well, we don't want to put sidewalks in there
All right.
because then people will be like, "Where's my sidewalk?" You know, if it doesn't happen within
So we
like
could-
the next year.
We could just say, yeah, we could just say to provide the city of Bishop with funding to maintain essential city services, shall an ordinance creating a 1 cent sales tax be used and adopted?
Well, I mean, I think that's personally too general. I mean, I like calling out all of the services. I just caution calling out sidewalks specifically.
Yeah.
I like
Okay.
street maintenance.
Well, I
Everybody
kind of like
complains about sidewalks.
the title that is recommended or given here. I don't know if say recommended, but I like the fact that it says community in there, Bishop Community Safety and Services, that it's pretty all inclusive to cover whatever we want to put it towards. It doesn't limit us that I can see from where we want to spend that money.
Right. Yeah, no. I agree with that. I just think we need to make it clear the need for this, that it's not that just we're putting this nilly-willy, and that's why I'd like to see at least the words essential services protection measure, because that's what we're doing. We're protecting the city's ability to provide essential services. So
Is that going to come as section 5 though, when we actually talk about what this is?
I mean, our community is definitely engaged, and a lot of and people will read what's in section 5. But I mean, when you're at the ballot box, like, I think we should distill that need in the name of the measure, because otherwise it gives the impression that we haven't been doing our due diligence.
I agree. I think having essential is a key word in the title.
I agree.
I'm okay with that.
I'm good with that.
So if I could
Yeah.
propose, then the title that I think we're proposing is Bishop Community Safety and Essential Services Protection Measure.
The only, I mean, I like protection. I just don't know, to Keith's point, how the public discourse for police services right now is just kind of changing its tone. I don't know if that might prohibit people from voting for it, just if it seems very police heavy. I mean, I'm not against it. I just don't know, just cautioning if it seems so public safety, if protection.
Oh,
kind of
I see what
equates
you're
to
saying.
public-
I guess what I was meaning was protecting essential services.
No, I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. I just don't know if protection could be translated to, meaning police services. But I'm not against it. I just think the public conversation right now is, a lot of cities are defunding police departments.
I say
But I-
take it out.
Yeah, I think it's protective services is included in essential.
Okay. So community safety and essential services measure. Is that what we're settling on?
Sounds good.
Seems good.
So we're just
And-
adding one word to the title, the measure title, but we're not changing the text of the ballot question.
And then on the ballot question, I would like to make at least one change, which is where we say to provide the city of Bishop with funding to maintain essential city services such as, so not just for general services, but with funding to maintain essential city services.
That sounds good.
I like that. And then to Karen's point, if the police thing is kind of sketchy, will public safety do this?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
our community, I don't see, we have a community that truly values our police force. So I don't think we need to remove that word, but I just felt like protection, you think of like to protect and serve is kind of what you equate with police officers. So that's why in the title I was like, but we all value the public safety that the police provide us. I mean, I think our constituents do. And so I don't think there would be a negative reaction to putting that instead of like just public safety, like combining police and fire. That's my opinion.
So Keith, it's probably a redundant question, but we have to get the wording just as we want it for section 3 right now for the vote.
So that's the idea. We have a time deadline with respect to getting these to the registrar of voters. It doesn't technically have to be done tonight, but for all intents and purposes, we need to finalize this sooner rather than later. And this is one of those essential steps that needs to be done tonight.
Okay, thank you.
And do we know how many words is actually contained in that ballot description as is written?
The ballot question?
Yeah.
He's counting.
I've got 54 as we've currently revised it.
Okay.
I think we roll with that.
Okay, we're good.
Robin, do you have the text?
Yes.
Okay, and then moving on to section 5, the council could discuss and designate one or more members of the city council to author the argument in favor of this measure. And that was easy.
I could help Stephen.
Anybody want to help Stephen?
Yeah, I could help Stephen.
Okay, sounds good. You guys are going to be around, so
Before we move on to this, could I have Robin just read us it one more time, just so it's clear? Because I don't feel like it's been like finally read, the question.
Okay.
I'd be happy to. Bishop Community Safety and Essential Services Measure to provide the City of Bishop with funding to maintain essential services such as police, fire, street maintenance, and parks and recreation services, shall an ordinance creating a 1-cent transaction sales and use tax be adopted, providing approximately X amount of dollars annually until repealed by voters, with all funds locally controlled and independently audited? Question mark.
Could we take out the word services after recreation?
Yes.
It's just, I think it's like we say it before, we don't need it again.
So, okay. Shall I read it over or you got that?
I'm fine.
Okay. Parks and Recreation shall, okay.
Okay, was everybody good with that then?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And we're just making a motion then. Do we have any comments from the public at this point, Robin?
Let me take a look. No new comments.
Okay,
No
thank
comments.
you.
And then the last thing that we'll need to add to that ballot question is the figure that staff can pull based on a 1% transactions and use tax rate. That figure, that number, that dollar amount needs to be inserted into this ballot question as written. Do we know what that number is offhand? At 1%?
I thought it was like 1.9 million to 1.8 million, Ron?
This Councilman Hill's presentation said it raised 1.9 million in 2017-18. That may be a figure to use, or maybe 1.8. It's
I mean, I think we should use whatever was the actual number in our latest budget that we passed, right? Or that we're about to pass. Through it. 1.8.
1.8.
Okay, I have 1.8 million annually.
Sounds good.
Laura, were you inferring I might not get elected?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so is anybody ready to make a motion on this?
One question. When do we have to have the 300-word statement in by?
So those regulations, it's listed in the text. It's not listed in the text. I'll have to check on that for you, council member.
Okay.
I think we might have to put a notice out by the 15th, something of June. I can't remember either.
All of the documents that will be printed on the ballot are due to the registrar of voters 88 days prior to the election, which is August 7th. So there's plenty of time between now and that date, which is, I think, the end cutoff date. But we're going to set a date earlier than that, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Will that be something that comes back to council for consideration?
No, the council is authorizing council member Schwartz and Mohove to do this, and it will be printed as when it's submitted to the city clerk, acting as the elections official.
Okay, do a good job.
Try. course.
You could always run it by, if Chris is interested, you could always run it by him, I guess, but
We could designate him right now, along with Karen and Stephen.
Would that not be a Brown Act violation in this regard, or no?
No. Drafting this you're not. No, that's not a Brown Act violation.
Okay.
It's up to 5, right? Up to 5
Yeah.
positions.
Yeah. Chris, do you want to join us?
Sure, if it doesn't bother you guys. And
Not at all.
please.
Please.
designate me then.
okay. Now is anybody ready to make a motion?
Yes, but I don't know which motion to make.
The proposed resolution that calls for election, the proposed community safety and services measure.
I'll second Jim's motion.
As amended. We need, whoever makes the motion needs to move to approve the resolution as amended.
I make a motion to approve the proposed resolution that calls for an election for the proposed community safety and services measure as amended, and directs the city attorney to prepare an impartial analysis and set forth regulations regarding the submission of direct and rebuttal arguments regarding the measure for printing with ballot materials.
I'll second that.
Perfect.
All right.
And the vote, please, Robin?
Okay, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, submitting the Bishop Community Safety and Services Measure to the voters at the November 3, 2020 general municipal election and taking certain related actions as amended. Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
And then the resolution to consolidate.
Yes.
And we need a new motion on that, right, Keith?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion anybody has on the fifth measure, our fifth
Resolution.
right, resolution? If anybody's ready to make a motion, that would be great then, please.
And there's no public comments made.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for the proposed resolution for the consolidation with County of Inyo for the city's submission of the proposed community safety and service measure to be decided by voters at the November 3rd, 2020 election.
I'll second.
that motion.
Who was the second?
Karen or Chris?
That was me, Karen. Karen.
Okay.
Do that. It's a
Okay, Karen.
All right, thank you. Okay, then, oh, I'm sorry, the vote.
Yeah. Okay. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Inyo to consolidate a general municipal election to be held on November 3, 2020, with a statewide general election to be held on that date pursuant to Section 10403 of the Elections Code. Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
thank you very much. Thanks, Keith, for getting us through that.
You're welcome.
Now we're moving on to item E, and that's resolution to ratify a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Bishop, California, acting as the director of emergency services, authorizing the creation of an administrative program in response to COVID-19 to temporarily relax outdoor dining regulations and on-site parking requirements and to waive related fees. And is it Mr. Phillips handling this one?
Yes, I'll be happy to. We have discussed before the possibility of relaxing regulations to restaurant seating, so that the requirement that they spread that seating out within the restaurant itself might be relieved somewhat. And this proclamation that the mayor signed earlier today needs to be ratified with the council.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any discussion regarding this?
Just that on the press release, I noticed that it said stage 3 instead of phase 3. It's probably too late to change that now, but and then I saw the letter from that lady asking about it, and the response was good about people applying and having to, you know, basically map out how they're going to use the space and keep it safe. So good job on that.
I believe it is stage 3. The phases are within the stages.
Okay, then I stand corrected.
And I just want to basically say that I think this is a great thing to do as to help out all of the restaurants who are inevitably like having somewhat more limited capacity with the spacing of all the tables, and just to let people know that we're here to help in whatever way we can. And if you have another idea of how we could help out your business, like, reach out. The wheels of government aren't always fast, but we definitely are here in the interest of helping out our town. So don't hesitate to call us.
I would also like to comment that as we move forward with the grant that we received to talk about rezoning certain parts of downtown, we could use some of the lessons learned in this time to see like what makes sense. Like, does it make sense to rezone? So there is, you know, outdoor seating on sidewalks, and we might as well talk to, you know, constituents and restaurant owners to see like, well, what worked? Would this be something that we would want to keep as a permanent move? It's a great way to test the waters in a time where we would have not had this opportunity.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, it's another example of what we've been trying to do to help our businesses. And of course, we care, we're citizens and we care a lot about our community. But also it makes, financial sense for us because when they do well, we do well. And just like when we reduced the water and sewer rate for them while many of them were closed, and I really appreciate that our staff has been happy, happily willing to help out and to assist our businesses. And so it's just another attempt that we're trying to help them be successful. Anybody else have any comments on this, or do we have any comments from the public, Robin? Any others besides the one we received earlier?
Right, we just received the one comment, as you mentioned, from Gigi De Jong, and no other new comments have been submitted.
Okay. If nobody has any other comments, somebody ready to make a motion?
I will move that we approve the resolution ratifying the mayor's proclamation.
Second.
Okay, and the vote, please, Robin?
Chris seconded.
Okay, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, ratifying the proclamation authorizing the creation of an administrative program in response to COVID-19 to temporarily relax outdoor dining regulations and on-site parking requirements and to waive related fees. Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yeah.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. And we are moving on to item F. That's adopt fiscal year 2020, 2021 budget. And
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. We discussed this budget in detail 2 weeks ago. I just want to thank Jenny for coming to work for the city and immediately jumping into working on this next fiscal year budget. She's worked nights and weekends and has done a tremendous job, and we appreciate it. I will turn this over to her at this time.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. You'll find in your packets a copy of the final budget for fiscal year 2021. This is the budget we reviewed a few weeks ago. Did anyone have any questions? No? Okay. If there are no questions, do we move to adopt?
anybody ready to make a motion on this? Oh, any comments from the public, Robin?
I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
No comments made.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I'll
Chris.
second that motion.
Perfect. And the vote, please?
Councilmember Mahovey?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I gotta read. No, we don't have to read this, do we? Okay, sorry. Councilmember Mahovey?
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello?
Good job, Jenny. Yes.
Thank you.
Mayor Smith?
Yes, and thank you very much, Jenny, for all your hard work on this, and everybody, and the staff, and everybody.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much. Okay, on to item G, and that's resolution approving the application and receipt of local government planning support grant program funds. Do we have Elaine with us this evening?
Hi, good evening, Jen. Good evening, Mayor. Want to introduce the item, or I can go into my staff report?
I think if you want to just briefly explain the item, that would be great. Please.
Can everyone hear me okay? I understand that I'm a little spotty.
Little bit spotty, but I get the gist of it.
It's
Well, that doesn't help.
Is that better?
Not really.
No.
Okay. Router, and hopefully that is that a little better? I'm just going to staff report, and hopefully this will work. This item is a resolution of the City Council approving the application and receipt of local government planning support grant program funds. This is a program that was funded in the 2019 State of California budget. The governor authorized $250 million to prioritize planning activities that would stimulate new housing. One of the eligible projects under this grant funding is updating the Sid Bishop General Plan housing element, which we are required by state mandate to have updated in April 2021. The City of Bishop is eligible to receive up to $65,000. So I've drafted a grant application to update the housing element for the amount of $65,000. So this resolution allow for the submission of the application and also for the receipt of the funding when it is awarded. Staff's recommendation that the City Council will adopt the resolution approving application receipt of local government planning support grant fundings by title only. I'd like to add that the City of Bishop is obligated by state mandate to update the housing element in the next year. And so the application for this funding will save general fund revenue in the coming year.
Okay, great. Thank you, Elaine. Anybody have any questions or comments on the item?
My only question was, do we typically, is this the item that we typically contract out with Mammoth Lakes Housing Department or something like that? No.
The housing element typically updated every 5 years. City of Bishop has an extension that we're allowed. We update it every 8 years. We do typically hire consultants. The last housing element was prepared by Sandra Bauer, who has worked with the city on a number of planning consulting projects in the past.
Okay. Thanks,
Okay,
Elaine.
Stephen, did you have something else or no?
No, I was just thanking Elaine.
Oh, that's nice. Anybody else?
No public comments made.
Thank you. Anybody ready to make a motion?
Sure, I will. I'll make a motion that the council adopt the resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, approving the application and receipt of local government planning support grant program funds by title only.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. And the vote, please, Robin?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Bishop, State of California, authorizing application for and receipt of local government planning support grant program funds. Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
All righty. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
and for your understanding on technology.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. We will move on to item H, and that's tree trimming and removal services contract. And we have Public Works available still with us.
Yep, I'm here still. I've been back here in the background waiting.
I know, sorry it took a while to get to you.
No, not at all. It was very important stuff that had to be taken care of.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So, good evening again, Council. The City of Bishop periodically requires tree removal and trimming services. Since 2016, the city has had a contractor under contract to do this work, and it has proved to be advantageous for the city. A request for proposals, or an RFP, for tree trimming and removal services was released on May 6, 2020, with proposals due June 2nd, 2020. The RFP provided for an on-call contract where work is ordered on an as-needed basis at costs specified in the contract. Only one proposal was received. This proposal was from Eastern Sierra Tree Service. It meets the requirements of the RFP at costs that appear reasonable. Actually, we're under contract with them right now, and over the past 4 years, there shows a 6% increase over 2016, so very reasonable. It is proposed to contract with Eastern Sierra Tree Service until July 2023. Budget impacts. The work anticipated to be done under this contract is the same work done for both the Public Works and the Community Services Department on a regular basis. The cost of the work is included in the budgets for those departments, and only work that is budgeted can be completed. Normally, contracts have specified not to exceed costs due to the on-call nature of the project. It is proposed the maximum cost instead be dictated by budget limits. So essentially, whatever each department budgets for the year, is what all they're allowed to contract with them for. And then obviously emergency work may take something out of that scope. City Attorney Pucci has reviewed this item and finds that the recommended action complies with the law. Recommendation: approve the execution of the contract with Eastern Sierra Tree Service based on the RFP and Eastern Sierra's proposal.
Okay.
Destin, you say that we already are working with this particular company? There are
Yes.
tree services providers.
I'm sorry, say that again, Councilman.
They're currently our tree service provider?
Yes, currently they are our tree service provider right now, and actually performed very well with everything that we've asked of them. And I believe, I don't know if Dan's still available, but the park has been very happy with them as well.
So I guess I would ask a question. Were the budgets that were set for the different departments sufficient for the trees that came up, or did we have to not do some trees because we ran out of money? I guess is a better question.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if Dan is still on the meeting or not. He could speak better to his department.
Typically, every year we spend about $10,000 in trees. And we budgeted that over, we basically developed a tree maintenance plan for the next 3 years concerning removal and overall health of trees, especially in City Park, concerning major concerns with cottonwoods and liabilities. Eastern Sierra Tree Service has provided a great service to us. They're always willing to work with us. And so about every year we spend about $10,000 on tree removal and safety pruning. But as we go through into the future, those numbers will stay solid in those budgets as we do overall health of the city park. And of course, all city trees as they grow, and as you know, things need to be removed at some point, and things need to be maintained for the overall health of the trees. So any other questions, or does that suffice for you?
No, and is it true to say that where there's things that the city staff can do safely and efficiently, we do it ourselves in-house?
Yes, 100%. And we also just acquired our new Genie lift, which is going to allow us to do a lot of more of that work in-house as well. So
sweet.
Yeah, and so far the Public Works used them. It was 2 years ago to remove about 8 large trees within city parking lots and stuff. And they did an excellent job for the most of the maintenance, trimming and stuff for traffic's line of sight, truck clearance. The Public Works staff does that ourselves.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any public comment?
No public comments made.
Okay, and a motion, please?
I'll move that we approve the execution of the contract with Eastern Sierra Tree Service based on the RFP and Eastern Sierra's proposal.
Second that motion.
Okay, thank you. And the vote, please, Robin?
Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello, Chris?
Sorry, yes, I was muted.
Okay. Mayor Smith?
Yes,
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
thank you very much. Thank you, Destin.
Thank you.
Oh, you're still here. Next item, item I, Solar Asset Management Services Agreement. Back to you, Destin.
Yes, it is. Thank you. So the wells in the sewer plant solar project installed photovoltaic arrays at well 2 site near the fairgrounds, at the well 4 site about 2 miles west of Bishop on West Line Street, and at the wastewater treatment plant east of Bishop. The system was commissioned in March of 2016. The total capacity of the arrays is about 240 kilowatts, constructed at a total cost of $620,000. The project benefited from financial incentives provided by Southern California Edison. Since the commissioning of the system, Terra Verde has provided asset management services to the city. These services have proved to be beneficial. Public Works Department wears many hats and manages those hats very well. Managing solar arrays is not one of those hats, and it's best left in the hands of electrical experts such as Terra Verde. Terra Verde has done an excellent job monitoring the system, performing annual maintenance, and arranging repairs. The agreement also provides for quarterly and annual audits, validates actual production versus predicted production, and verifies correctness of Southern California Edison billing at each site. Budget impacts of this. Terra Verde has provided a contract for 5 years with no escalation clause. The yearly cost of $9,500 has been included in the 2021 fiscal year budget in water and sewer under professional technical services. City Attorney Pucci has reviewed this item and finds the recommended action complies with the law. And the department recommends approve the execution of the 5-year solar assessment management services agreement with Terra Verde Energy and authorize the expenditure of in the amount of $47,500 through the agreement. And I might add to this that the plan payoff now has gone, when we originally started that we would start pay off the system and begin to make money off of it in 14 years. And now it's been reduced to 10 years with some additional funding that has come in, incentives for solar and such. And this 9,500 is included in the proposed, the budget for in the payoff. This would carry us into the end of when we actually own the system and it's paid off.
Destin, do we have to pay this whole amount at one time, or is it the 9,500 per year that we pay?
It's 9,500 per year, Councilman Costello.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have opt-out clauses in the contract as well if we needed to.
And do they end up having to do much repair or replacement of panels or wires or?
Well, they've had to replace one inverter, looking at a second inverter that's starting to have issues. Terra Verde actually is just the middleman that monitors the system, and then they work with Holt and PCI who actually installed the system. So they've been a great resource to monitoring and then also facilitating these repairs, because they're in Texas. It's a little bit of work to get them here, and they always get them here and do kind of the dirty work for us.
But I would imagine that parts and labor are not included in this contract.
Many of the parts are included, not in this contract, but in our warranty, which they're responsible in this contract to make sure the warranty is followed through and taken care of correctly.
Okay. You know how much time we still have on the warranty?
We still have on our warranty. We bought the extended warranty that went to 25 years, the life of the system.
Okay.
Because we knew that the cost of it would continually rise, so we were able to buy it at a reasonable price at the beginning. And a simple inverter is a very expensive repair. In the tens of thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Great investment.
It definitely has been.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see it's paying itself off even faster than we had anticipated. So that's great.
Yeah, that's great. Any other comments or questions? Anybody? Any public comment?
No public comments, Laura, and your video's off if you intended that to be.
I'm running around with critters right now, so getting critters to bed. So that was intended, but thank you. And anybody care to make a motion, please?
I'll move that we approve the execution of the 5-year solar asset management services agreement with Terra Verde Energy and authorize the expenditure in the amount of $47,500 through the agreement.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. The vote, please, Robin?
Councilmember Mahovey,
Yes.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwartz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Costello,
Yes.
Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
Yes, thank you, Destin. And may the sun continue to shine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure it'll come up tomorrow morning. Okay, so anybody have any future agenda? Doesn't sound like it. How about we start with go to council and committee reports. Stephen, you have anything?
The only thing I have is we had the LAFCO meeting and we approved the budget for LAFCO. I did check out the rally in the park, and the kids in this town are great. The youth in this town is just like, they're great kids, and well, not kids. They're the youth in this town. It was really inspiring to see just how much they care about their neighbors and fellow man, and they did a great job, and it was very inspiring. So I commend them for that.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Karen, do you have anything?
I do. I attended the Eastern Sierra Recreation Collaborative, and it's a little old now, but I'll give you some of the information. The forest was talking about guidance from the state of California to open up the campgrounds, and it looks like that's going to happen on Friday. And different forests are opening up their wilderness permits. Inyo started June 1st, and Humboldt and Toyabe were sometime this month. The MLTPA, which is the Mammoth Lakes Trails and Public Access Foundation, received a $150,000 grant to work on a Inyo National Forest campground business plan. So, and that will be campgrounds throughout the Eastern Sierra, just not in the Mammoth Lakes region. And the Eastern Sierra Recreation Collaborative is having their Gateway community meetings online now. And instead of the community meetings that we attended last fall, you can go directly to their website and you can enter in projects that you think would be beneficial to the Eastern Sierra. So it's just an interactive, collaborative website. And that's the only meeting I attended. And I wanted to mention about what's going on in our nation and around the world right now. And, you know, we are not immune to it here in Bishop. And unfortunately, we had some serious threats for the rally that was held in the park. And I would just like to say that, like Stephen said, that the youth carrying on and just the outpouring of support of what's going on nationwide really just, brings me to tears. I think that, sometimes we feel like we're in this paradise here in Bishop, and I want us to, be aware of, the injustices that are going on in our nation, and let's not pretend that they don't exist here, and, really address them head on. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen. And Jim, do you have anything?
No, I really don't have much to report. I have a SCOG meeting this coming up Friday, and Karen, you're aware of that one. And that's about it for me.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
Stephen and I have an LTC meeting coming up next week. Haven't had an update for the OVGA recently. And just wanted to echo, I appreciated Father Cam Lemon's prayer today, and would just urge people, as much as it's easy to get outraged by things that are going on and things that people say, that we, this community has showed we really do care for each other and respect each other, and that we should all look for ways to listen to and learn from each other, and not to join in all the rhetoric and become polarized where we can't hear each other and work things out. So I just want to encourage that. And I was really impressed too that, for something that a lot of people thought was going to be, real bad, it was a good, peaceful demonstration. And I'm thankful for that. And that's that.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I did appreciate Father Lemon's prayer this evening. It's something I want to go back and read again. We've all just taking the time to do self reevaluation of our thoughts, our attitudes, and just how we really treat everybody, not just color of the skin, but just everybody, whichever whoever you might happen to come across, and how they look, or how they act, or whatever. And we're all having a little attitude check that way. So it's been good that way. And I did attend the meeting that Chief Joe Dell talked about earlier, the JPA meeting with Mr. Simons from the ambulance service and Health and Human Services. It was a really, really great meeting. And so the wonderful thing is that we were there to let Judd know that the city wants to help him. And, we want to help the ambulance service. We want response to be able to be there. And so really what we're doing is helping the citizens and making sure that emergency response is there when they need it. And we just had a really good understanding, a really good meeting. So with that, we will say good night and thank you to everybody. And I'm excited about things getting back open again. We will adjourn this meeting until Monday, June 22nd, 2020, 6 p.m. Thank you very much, everybody, and night-night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey.